about building a better future. It's a responsibility we all share. Every day, new technologies are creating industries and opportunities we never thought possible. And as more countries take action to reduce carbon emissions, demand continues to grow for the products and services essential to deliver responsible economic growth.
What we commit to now will determine the future for all of us.
Our best and brightest are discovering things that can help build a better world for generations to come. It's not easy, but it's resources like those produced by BHP that help make it possible.
These things are happening right now.
The future is clear if we continue to think big.
Giga gambala, giga gambala, giga namuji, giga namuji, giga gambala, giga gambala, giga namuji, gambala coolin', giga namuji, gambala coolin'. Giga gambala, giga gambala, giga namuji, gambala coolin', gambala coolin'. Giga namuji, giga namuji, gambala coolin'. Giga gambalai, giga namuji, gambala coolin'. It's 4 words that I've learnt off my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, who was actually interviewed by an anthropologist some time ago, possibly over 50 years ago now. And I heard her being interviewed. She was being interviewed and the anthropologist was asking what we referred to, what the Wurundjeri people referred to as non-Indigenous people. And it was Namuji, meaning the ghost people, the ghost ones who came into our land. And then he said, well, what did you call yourselves? And she said, well, we call ourselves Kulin, part of a nation of people that encompasses possibly 250 kilometres of where Melbourne exists today. Then the other words he said, or you heard me singing, was Gigal Gumbalai. He thought he could confuse my aunt, and he held up a saw, and he said, what would you call this? And she said, oh, we have words for that. And she said, we call that Gigal Gumbalai. He was a bit confused, apparently, because I only heard it. I didn't actually see it on visual. And she said, the 2 words, Gigal means go away. Gumbalai means come back later. So the saw, of which was a metal object, was a go away, come back. So looking at those 4 words, I'll put those 4 words together. Go away, Namuji. Come back, Kulin. Meaning, way before European settlement, we were able and capable of looking after the land. But hearing that chant, I want you to have that here, not always in the front of your mind, but maybe in the canyons of your mind. And think about those words that you also are now an Indigenous person of the land that the Wurundjeri people have always lived upon. So with great respect, I offer that song to you as a welcoming song to become one of us, for you and all your people of BHP and the 2021 AGM that you're now watching. So I'm Ian Hunter, a member of the Wurundjeri people. Of course, I suppose I should elaborate a little bit on the name Hunter. The name Hunter, it's my surname, which comes from my grandfather. Nothing to do with my Indigenous heritage. My grandfather, Jack Hunter, came from a little place way up in the north of the British Isles, a place called Inverness. So on my father's side of the family, I have Scottish heritage, but it's on my mother's side of the family that our heritage comes from Melbourne and what you see in the background here of Berarang, where our creation story begins, the beginning of the Wurundjeri people and the Kulin Nation, way before time was actually written or recorded. So welcome, Wumunjika Banamuji. Welcome to the land of the Wurundjeri people, Wumunjika.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ken McKenzie, and I'm your chair. Thank you for joining us today on Remembrance Day, and I'd like to welcome you to this annual general meeting. It is unfortunate that we cannot be together in Perth as originally intended for today's meeting, but I am glad we are able to hold this meeting virtually. Today, I'm in Melbourne at our global headquarters, joined by Chief Executive Officer Mike Henry and Group Company Secretary Stephanie Wilkinson. We are joined remotely by our directors based in both Australia and around the world. We also have our external auditors from Ernst & Young and Chief Financial Officer David Lamont in attendance. Now let me first thank Ian Hunter, Wurundjeri Elder, for his warm welcome to country. I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional owners of this land from which I am speaking to you. I'd also like to pay my respect to the elders both past and present of the Kulin Nation and extend that respect to other First Nations peoples who are joining us today. I can confirm that there is a quorum present, and as the time is shortly after 4 p.m. in Melbourne, we can now start the meeting. The notice for this annual general meeting was sent out and made available to shareholders on the 14th of September 2021. The notice itself is set out on page 5 of that document and provides the full text of each resolution, noting which is proposed as an ordinary or special resolution. I'd now like to ask our Group Company Secretary, Stephanie Wilkinson, to outline the procedures for this virtual AGM. Stephanie?
Thank you, Ken, and hello everyone. My name is Stephanie Wilkinson and I'm the Group Company Secretary of BHP Group Ltd. Today's meeting is being held virtually via the Lumi platform. I will now run through the procedural aspects of today's meeting. We have published on our website a guide to using Lumi. If you experience any technical issues, please refer to the Lumi Help Guide available on our meetings page of our website. In the unlikely event that we do experience any major technical issues, we will provide you with updates through our website and the exchanges. Voting on all items today will occur by a poll. On a poll, each shareholder attending online or present by proxy or corporate representative has one vote for every share held. If you are eligible to vote, a polling icon or a voting tab will appear on your screen. Selecting this icon will bring up the resolutions and voting options. To cast your vote, simply select for, against or abstain for each resolution. Your selection is automatically recorded. There is no submit or enter button. You are able to change your vote up until the time that the chair declares voting is closed. The chair will shortly be opening the poll and you can then vote at any time. You do not need to wait for the resolution to be discussed before casting your vote. All of today's items of business will be treated as joint electorate actions with BHP Group plc shareholders in accordance with the company's constitution. All votes cast today will be added to the votes that were cast by BHP Group plc shareholders at their meeting on the 14th of October 2021. The total sum of votes will represent the final voting result for each item of business for both meetings. Results of the voting will be announced to the stock exchanges in London, Australia, New York and Johannesburg shortly after the conclusion of today's meeting and will also be published on the company's website. Tim Hewen from Computershare has been appointed Returning Officer for the meeting and will scrutineer the vote. Turning to the items of business in the notice of meeting. Items 1 to 20 in the notice are endorsed by your board, and the board recommends that you vote in favour of them. Items 21 to 23 have been requisitioned by two groups of shareholders in BHP Group Ltd. Item 21 is a special resolution seeking to amend the constitution of BHP Group Ltd. Item 21 is not endorsed by your board, and the board recommends that you vote against item 21. Items 22 and 23 are advisory resolutions and will only be valid if item 21 passes. Item 22, in the board's view, is substantially aligned with BHP's existing approach. Accordingly, the board recommends that you vote in favour of item 22 as a non-binding advisory resolution for the reasons set out in the explanatory notes in the notice of meeting. However, item 23 is not endorsed by your board, and the board recommends that you vote against item 23. In order to ask a written question, please select the messaging icon in the Lumi platform and type your question in the text box. Please state in the text box which item of business your question relates to. To submit your question, click the arrow symbol. If you wish to ask a verbal question, you must first pause the webcast, then select the link under Ask an Audio Question. This will open a new window in your web browser. Enter your name and your topic or question, then select Submit Request. You will need to allow access to your microphone by selecting Accept in the pop-up window. You will then be placed in the queue. You will be able to hear the meeting audio as you wait to ask your question. When it's time for you to ask your question, you will be introduced by the moderator. You will hear a single beep indicating that your microphone has been unmuted and you may ask your question. Once you have asked your question, you can either hang up or rejoin the queue to ask another question. If you hang up and wish to watch the remainder of the meeting, simply navigate back to the Lumi webcast screen. You will need to press the play button on the broadcast bar to continue watching. I encourage you to submit written questions or comments now to assist us in getting through as many questions as possible. Questions should relate to the items of business under consideration at today's meeting. We will deal with each question at the relevant item of business. We will ensure that there is a reasonable opportunity for shareholders as a whole to ask questions or make comments at this meeting. However, we may not be able to answer every question or address every comment received. Please refer to the help guides on our website if you are having any difficulty in connecting to the platform or have any other question. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you, Stephanie. The poll is now open for all the items to be considered at today's meeting. I will also give you a warning before the end of the meeting to ensure that you are able to cast your votes. Now turning to my presentation. This year has been exceptionally challenging. The COVID-19 pandemic has continued to spread across the globe and has tested all of us. I've always felt honored to serve as your chair. However, never before have I been more proud of the performance of our company and people than in the past year. During this period of global disruption, we have continued to produce the commodity the world requires, kept our world-class assets running safely and efficiently, and played a substantial role in global economic development. Importantly, we've been able to continue to make a valuable contribution to the communities where we operate, partnering with local businesses and communities, supporting local jobs, and continuing to pay taxes and royalties to governments, an economic contribution of approximately $41 billion for the year. And please note, all my references in this presentation are in US dollars, which is our reporting currency. Throughout this time, we have been grateful for the support of all of our partners, our customers, our suppliers, and our communities. We're also grateful for the support from you, our shareholders. I've always enjoyed the opportunity presented by the AGM to thank you in person for your ongoing support. And as Australia opens up, I look forward to the time when we can all meet again in person. BHP performed very strongly in financial year 21. Earnings were up 69% to $37.4 billion. We generated record free cash flow of $19.4 billion, up 140%. Net debt finished down 66% for the year at $4.1 billion, and return on capital employed strengthened to 32.5%. And on the back of these strong results, a record total dividend of $3.01 was paid per share for financial year 21. Bringing BHP's returns to shareholders to more than $15 billion for the full year and more than $38 billion over the past 3 years. Our performance is underpinned by our purpose: to bring people and resources together to build a better world. And our 5 priorities, safety, portfolio, capital discipline, capability and culture, and social value, are the foundations that enable us to deliver now and into the future. The safety and well-being of our people remains our top priority. And it is pleasing that we've had over 2.5 years without a fatality at our operated assets, and key indicators continue to improve. However, we know that our commitment to health and safety requires more work. Sexual harassment is a critical health and safety issue for BHP and for our industry, and we remain committed to ensuring that all our people can go to work feeling safe and respected. Moving to another of our priorities, portfolio. At BHP, we're always looking to the future. As our world continues to evolve, we must be ready to position the organization to capture future opportunities and unlock value for our shareholders. Given the strength of our position, we believe now is the right time to make a number of strategic, transformative changes. The first of these is our intention to unify BHP's corporate structure under BHP Group Ltd. The current dual listing structure was established to help facilitate the BHP and Billiton merger in 2001. Although it served us well, its suitability for our organization has diminished over time. Unification will offer a number of benefits due to the simplification of the company's structure. These include moving from 2 parent companies to 1 parent company with 1 share register and 1 share price globally. If unification is implemented, BHP Group plc shareholders will have their shares exchanged for BHP Group Limited shares on a 1-for-1 basis. There will be no change for BHP Group Limited shareholders. And BHP's board, management, strategy, and dividend policy will remain the same. The unification proposal is subject to a number of approvals, including shareholder meetings and votes in the first quarter of 2022. And I look forward to discussing the proposal with you at that time. Now, in addition to unification, we have also announced a number of strategic steps towards transforming our portfolio for the future. As the world moves towards decarbonization, we will continue to assess our portfolio to help meet the global demands of the energy transition and determine the right mix of attractive commodities and assets to create shareholder value. Now, it's against these dimensions of value and decarbonization that we have made 2 important announcements. First is our investment in the Jansen Stage 1 potash project in Canada, which provides significant exposure to this future-facing commodity with strong demand and potential growth. And second is the proposed merger of our petroleum business with Woodside, which we believe will unlock value for BHP shareholders as the combined business will be better positioned to navigate the energy transition. We are confident these changes, alongside our commitments to climate leadership and our financial and value-based decision-making, will ensure we are well positioned to be at the center of global demand for key commodities into the future. Now moving to climate change. Now this year we have made strong progress towards meeting our commitments, including initiatives focused on reducing our operational and value chain emissions. We have, at an estimated cost of $2 to $4 billion, established a substantial pipeline of decarbonization projects and plans aimed at achieving our emissions reduction target of at least 30% by financial year 2030. And as part of our $400 million climate investment program, we have also committed a further $75 million to partnerships focused on steel decarbonization with 4 of our major customers who represent more than 10% of global steel production. As you know, we've asked our shareholders to vote on our new Climate Transition Action Plan. BHP is the first company in the Australian market to provide this opportunity to shareholders. We believe it is important that all our shareholders have an opportunity to engage with us on our climate strategy and actions, and this advisory vote has provided an important forum for discussion and feedback on the plan. Now, we look forward to continuing to hear your views on this important topic. Now, today I have spoken about our climate change position. However, it represents only one aspect of our social value agenda. We are committed to making a positive contribution to society, to our people, partners, economy, environment, and local communities. Now, today there is one other key area of social value I'd like to particularly highlight: our continued work with traditional owners and other Indigenous representative organizations to further strengthen our cultural heritage management practices. The long-term nature of our business gives BHP the opportunity to establish lasting relationships with Indigenous peoples. We understand that Indigenous peoples have a deep connection to their natural environments and that these are tied to their physical, spiritual, cultural, and economic well-being. BHP recognizes and respects the significant contribution that Indigenous peoples make to national and international economic prosperity. And as one of many examples across the world, the journey of iron ore from Bunjima, or Nia Barley country in Western Australia, is a story in which an essential element of global growth is enabled by two proud and culturally strong traditional owner communities. We recognize our responsibility to respect and sustain the cultural landscapes in which we operate and work in partnership to ensure we respect the rights of Indigenous peoples who are its custodians. This year in Australia, we've worked closely with the First Nations Heritage Protection Alliance to jointly develop a set of principles to guide BHP's approach to Indigenous cultural heritage in Australia. And I sincerely wish to thank those who have given their support and guidance on this important work. Now, before I hand across to Mike Henry, I'd like to acknowledge our directors, Anita Frew and Susan Kilsby, who will retire at the conclusion of this meeting. I'd like to sincerely thank Anita and Susan for their considerable contribution to the board and to the shareholders of BHP. During the year, we continued our focus on board renewal and welcomed Xiaochun Cleaver and Christine O'Reilly to the board in October 2020. And I'm also pleased that Michelle Hinchcliffe will join us as a director in March. Michelle brings significant expertise in financial risk management and strong global experience, and we look forward to welcoming her early next year. We will continue to focus on our board renewal process and will seek to appoint another female independent non-executive director in this financial year. In conclusion, there is no doubt we continue to live in an uncertain and challenging world. And despite this complexity, the good news is BHP is in a strong and resilient position. We have a clear strategy to deliver long-term value by repositioning our portfolio towards future-facing commodities. We have strength in our balance sheet, our people, and performance culture. And we have announced an important step towards redefining our corporate structure for the opportunities that lie ahead. In short, we believe the future is clear. It has been a significant year for BHP, one that will transform the company and unlock long-term value for our shareholders. And I wish to thank you for your ongoing support, and it's now my pleasure to invite Mike Henry to speak with you.
Thanks, Ken. It's a pleasure to join you today. In current times, we've all needed to get used to connecting virtually, but I have to say that I am really looking forward to when we can return to getting together in person. Following on from Ken, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the underlying business, our recent operational and financial performance, how we're shaping the company to create value and returns through meeting the world's resources needs, and our approach to our operations and engagement with those around us in a way that maximizes long-term shareholder value and generates value for others who depend on and support BHP. Thanks to the resilience and commitment of BHP employees and contractors and the support from our partners and communities, we delivered a strong set of outcomes in the last financial year. Most importantly, we improved overall underlying safety performance, and it's now been more than 2.5 years without a fatality in BHP operations. Safety remains priority number one. As Ken noted, our strong operational performance, coupled with the tailwind of high commodity prices, saw us deliver record free cash flow, an even stronger balance sheet, and of course a record final dividend to shareholders. In addition to seeking to maximize returns for every dollar invested through running the base business very well, with a strong focus on operational and cost discipline, we are also seeking to grow value through ensuring that we have the right portfolio and are able to capitalize on the opportunity to meet the world's growing needs for certain resources. Guided by our capital allocation framework, last year we invested $2.3 billion in maintenance, in line with our intent to ensure reliable operations. We also invested more than $5 billion in development, growth, and exploration across our business. Our focus on operational excellence shone through in production and throughput records at Western Australian Iron Ore and Escondida, our highest ever copper production at Olympic Dam since BHP acquired it 16 years ago, and delivery of 4 major projects on budget and on or ahead of time. This focus is unlocking further significant value for shareholders and is supporting our ability to continue to grow value for those others who benefit from BHP's presence. In the year past, we paid $2.1 billion to local suppliers in the communities where we operate. We announced significant funding towards global response and recovery efforts from the COVID-19 pandemic last year. More than $50 million was invested in community programs in areas where we operate in Australia, North America, South America, and Asia to support greater access to local health services and relief programs. And the BHP Foundation is now working with 40 partner organizations across 49 countries to advance solutions to some of the world's most pressing sustainable development challenges. This includes working with Transparency International to identify corruption risks in mining licensing and permitting processes, partnering with the United Nations Office of Women to provide second chance education for marginalized women and girls to re-enter formal learning environments, and supporting Indigenous Australians in landscape-scale conservation programs through the 10 Deserts Project, covering a vast area of the Australian continent. Now, in addition to the economic and social benefit our presence brings to so many others, we are also very focused on ensuring that the assets we run and our supply chains are operating sustainably. This includes a strong focus on showing leadership when it comes to reducing the greenhouse gas emissions that accompany the production and processing of our products. We recently released our Climate Transition Action Plan, which reflects our resolve in this regard. Shareholders are being asked to vote on this today through the Say on Climate resolution. Within this plan, we outline our continuing commitment to net zero operational emissions by no later than 2050, and our midterm target of at least 30% emissions reduction by 2030 on 2020 levels. We've been taking action on this front for over 2 decades now, and our signing of multiple renewable energy contracts recently will help accelerate this reduction in the near term. Of course, it's not just about operational emissions or Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. We also must focus on the emissions generated by others in the value chain through the transport and processing of our products and the provision of goods and services to BHP. These are our Scope 3 emissions. While we can't determine the outcomes on that front alone, we are working with our customers and suppliers to stimulate and support their efforts to reduce emissions. This is in keeping with our long-term goal to pursue net zero Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 for our reshaped portfolio. In the past year, we have entered into research and development partnerships with companies covering 12% of the world's steel production to assist steelmaking decarbonization efforts. We undertook the world's first LNG-fueled bulk carrier tender, which will lower emissions of shipping of our iron ore, and have subsequently set a target of net zero emissions from the maritime transport of our products by 2050. We are also targeting net zero for our direct suppliers' emissions from the provision of goods and services to BHP, also by 2050. We continue to deliver strong operational and financial performance and ever more sustainable outcomes. Our company is in great shape, and this is shining through in the numbers. Building upon this solid base, as we look to the future, we will seek to grow value through positioning the BHP portfolio to benefit from the big trends unfolding in the world around us. These include population growth, rising living standards, electrification, and decarbonization. We want to grow in those commodities that stand to benefit greatest from these trends. Against that backdrop, we took the decision to proceed with the Jansen Potash project in Canada, which will contribute to more sustainable farming. We announced the intent to merge our petroleum business with Woodside, creating a large, more resilient company better able to navigate the energy transition and grow value while doing so. Earlier this week, we announced the sale of our interest in the BMC coal assets in Queensland as we reshape our portfolio to focus on higher quality metallurgical coal to increase efficiency and lower emissions in steelmaking. And we intend to continue to grow our already strong positions in nickel and copper. In copper, we have some solid growth ahead over the next 5 years, thanks to the recently commissioned Spence Growth Project, improving grades at Escondida, and more reliable production out of Olympic Dam. We've increased our exploration effort and have work underway in Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Mexico, the US, and Australia. And we are currently looking at targeted investment in early stage development options, as we did with Sol Gold in Ecuador and the Elliott Copper Project in Australia. In nickel, we have established agreements with Midland Exploration in Canada and made an offer to acquire Noront Resources. This combination of exploration, targeted early stage investments, and unlocking significant organic growth in our existing operated assets sets us up to deliver more of our products to meet the world's needs. Now, everything I've spoken about, safety, strong operational and financial performance, growth, only happens with great people and culture. And this is something that I am really passionate about. We need to continue to build capability, and we have a number of efforts underway to do so. We're strengthening our organizational capability as a competitive advantage. We're recruiting new talent, as well as developing even greater technical and operational capability through our centers of excellence. We're investing in building skills through the BHP Future Fit Academy, where we train more than 500 apprentices and trainees in the past year, with a commitment to 2,500 over 5 years. We're enabling our people and improving the way we work through the BHP operating system, which makes continuous improvement part of what we do in our business every day. Our plans to unify the BHP corporate structure and provide a single share register will make us simpler and more agile, which is in line with our broader drive for a high-performance, inclusive workforce and culture. We're not yet fully where we want to be, and perhaps there will always be more to do, but we're making some strong progress. Female participation at BHP has increased by more than 2/3 since we set out our aspirational gender goal in 2016, and we are a better performing company for it. We remain wholeheartedly committed to the important effort underway towards gender balance. Indigenous representation in our Australian workforce has risen to 7.2% and 7.5% in Chile. We remain focused on partnering with Indigenous and First Nations peoples in all the regions in which we work. Our proximity to Indigenous communities makes them critical partners whose rights, connection to land, and cultural heritage we respect. Understanding these rights and working with Indigenous peoples is integral to our exploration and mine planning processes. At our Jansen Stage 1 project, our goal is for First Nations employees to make up 20% of the workforce, and we have opportunity agreements in place with 6 First Nations communities around the site. These are both firsts in the potash industry. We remain frustrated that we continue to experience instances of sexual harassment and assault in our camps and operations. This conduct is completely unacceptable, and we are absolutely committed to eliminating it from BHP. This year, we introduced a policy to limit alcohol consumption at our Australian camps, and we launched a dedicated support service providing assistance to anyone in our workforce impacted by sexual assault or harassment. We've focused initiatives on education and on-site security, with a further 300 million Australian dollars committed for security improvements in 2022. We also continue to take an approach to ensuring consequences for those that behave badly. And that's designed to send a clear message that there is simply no place for this conduct in our workplaces. We are determined to create and maintain an environment at BHP where we attract and retain the best talent, and where we empower our people to make the daily decisions that make us safer, more productive, and more capable of meeting the needs of our customers, communities, and nations. The future of BHP is clear. We are shaping our company to meet the world's needs, and we are shaping our teams to get the very best out of our assets. We're doing so because it drives results and fosters high performance. It enables us to get the most out of ourselves and out of the commodities we produce. And importantly, we're doing it because it adds value to the world, to the communities we work in, and of course, to our shareholders. The plans we've announced and the strategy underpinning them will allow us to continue to create even greater value now and into the future. It's an exciting time for the company. I want to thank everyone, our stakeholders, and especially our shareholders, for your ongoing support for our company.